Hello yogis, my name is Stela. I am an instructor here at Yoga Strong, and I would like to review with you 10 modifications, 10 tips to protect your wrists during yoga practice. This is a concern that I hear very often at the end of class. Students complain that their wrists hurt, and this does not have to be the case. There are easy adjustments that you can follow to protect your wrists. So first I'd like to show you what happens during practice that causes pain in the wrists. Planks and chaturangas can be very demanding on the wrists. For example, in plank, the ideal alignment that is being taught is with the forearm at 90 degrees with the palm. So this is the alignment that students sometimes strive for unnecessarily in plank. Even worse, in chaturanga, you're taking your weight forward, and look at what happens at the angle between the forearm and the wrist. It decreases. That I'd like to share with you is using hard surfaces. That is very important because if you're using a soft surface or a very soft mat, carpet, if you're practicing at home on carpet, then what is happening to the wrist is a sinking mechanism. And that affects this angle here between the forearm and the palm that I just mentioned, causing the wrist to sink. It decreases this angle and it causes pain. Tip number 2 is to keep your fingers straight. If you're attempting to do a plank or a chaturanga with your fingers bent, then that again will send the tightness into the wrists. Try to keep the fingers very straight, and you're trying to move the weight away from the heel of the palm and into the entire surface of the palm. Because, as you're doing your planks, you don't want to have your weight focused just in this area. This is a very tiny area, and it doesn't have to be this way. It's a lot of weight for the wrist to take. Once you start to involve the entire palm, then it becomes a lot more manageable. The other trick I'd like to show you is the wrist lifts. So if you'd like to join me, feel free to do so. We're going to start in tabletop, fingers spread and straight, palms hip-width distance apart, and keeping the fingers on the ground, you're simply lifting the wrists off the floor. And then lower and lift, lower and lift, keeping the shoulders over the wrists. It takes a lot of strength in the forearms to be able to do this. But this is the same kind of engagement that you should be feeling in your forearms when you're doing your planks, when you're doing your down dogs, and any other arm balance. With this muscle memory of how it feels to have this muscle engaged, try to do your planks again and feel how much lighter your plank becomes once you start to engage this muscle that sends weight away from the heel of the palm and into the entire palm. Tip number 4 that I like to share with you is using your towel. So you take a hand towel that are provided by the studio and you fold it longwise. This is what I like to do. And then I bring it on the mat. I'm going to plant the heel of the palm onto the towel and the finger mounds and the fingers off the towel. This elevates my wrists and is going to open that angle between the palm and the forearm and is going to take pain away from the wrists. Tip number 5 is to simply walk the palms slightly forward of the shoulders in your plank. So you don't have to have the palms directly under the shoulders. You can walk the palms slightly forward and you can be here. This is a very valid plank. Another modification that you can do in your plank is to lower the knees. Once you do that, again, your weight is moving slightly back, and this moves the weight away from the palms and into the legs. And that again will alleviate the stress in the joints. One more modification that you'd like to try is by using your blocks. So you can take your blocks, bring the palms on the blocks, and find your plank this way. This elevation that you get from the blocks is again shifting weight away from the upper body and into the legs, slightly opening this angle in the wrist and also taking weight away. The next tip is to use your fists in your plank. So it looks like this. In this pose there is absolutely no stress in your wrist. So this is very nice. This is very comfortable and it really helps you Focus on pushing the earth away. Next thing to do is to do a micro bend or a more substantial bend in the elbows. So again, when you go from your plank with your wrists and forearms at 90 degrees, when you bend the elbows a little bit, you're taking some of that edge away and you're opening this angle a little more. The final tip that I'd like to share with you is to assess, reassess, and reassess every time you come to the mat. As your body is becoming stronger, you can slowly start to transition from using blocks to not using blocks, maybe using the towel, then to aligning your palms slightly forward of the shoulders, or anything that might feel appropriate. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.